Hi everyone, welcome back to the video on my Storytime channel. So I'm going to continue reading They Shook Hands. I'm on the last chapter of They Shook Hands Year 1, and after this we'll be on to Year 2. So we finish up with Year 1 today, and we'll continue with Year 2 on the next video, hopefully. But anyways, here's They Shook Hands Year 1, the final chapter of Year 1, Chapter 19. Questions and Answers. When Harry returned to consciousness, he was a bit disoriented. Then everything came back to him in a rush. He sat up hurriedly and instantly regretted it as soon as his head began to throb. Wincing, he sat back down on the white linen sheets. Good afternoon, Harry, Dumbledore said in a friendly tone. Hello, sir, is everything all right? Professor Quirrell was after the Philosopher's Stone, and we tried to get there first, but he caught us, and calm yourself, Harry. All is well, I assure you. Let me catch you up, You sure everything is okay? Pansy? Miss Parkinson is quite all right. She woke up with nothing more than a nasty headache here in the hospital wing. She's quite recovered, I assure you. How long have I been here? 3 days, Dumbledore answered him. Your friends have been most worried about you. They and your admirers have sent many tokens of esteem. Harry noticed the first time the flowers, pot plants, balloons, and boxes of candy. What happened down in the dungeons between you and Professor Quirrell is a complete secret. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled behind the half-moon spectacles. So naturally the whole entire school knows. I assume Draco told you our side of things? He did. Being under the full body bind, he was also able to hear the entire conversation between yourself and Voldemort. What happened, sir? I was wrestling with Quirrell, and his skin was dissolving wherever I touched him. That is what did him in. Though he had managed to subdue you, his body was too badly damaged for him to survive. When he saw that he could no longer win, Voldemort's spirit fled. Without a body to make the elixir, the stone was as useless to him as food. Where is the stone now? The stone was destroyed. Destroyed, Harry said blankly, but your friend Flamel, you know about Nicholas, do you? Dumbledore said, sounding pleased. I say, you did do this thing properly, didn't you? Nicholas and I have had a little chat, and we agree it's all for the best. But he'll die, won't he? Dumbledore nodded solemnly. He has sufficient elixir to last until he has set his affairs in order, but yes, very soon he will die. I'm sorry, sir, and he was. Flamel was a great wizard, and his death would be a great loss to the world. To one as young as you, I'm sure this seems quite incredible, but to Nicholas and his wife Perenelle, it really is like going to bed for a very long day. After all, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. You know, the stone is not really such a wonderful thing as all that. Yes, it gives limitless wealth and endless life, but in acquiring the skills and knowledge to make such a substance, one rises above such petty wants and desires. They are the two things that most human beings would choose above all, yet these are precisely the worst sort of thing for them. Dumbledore went silent, and Harry tried to wrap his brain around everything. Dumbledore hummed a little ditty and looked up at the ceiling, giving Harry time to think. Sir, Harry asked after a time, even if the stone is gone, he's still out there. He, Harry? Dumbledore asked him pointedly. Say his proper name. A fear of a mere name only increases the fear of the thing itself. Yes, sir, Harry said. Voldemort is going to try to get out of the ways to come back, isn't he? Dumbledore nodded. Yes, I'm afraid he will. He is still out there somewhere, mostly looking for another body to share. He left Quirrell to die, for he shows just as little mercy to his followers as his enemies. Nevertheless, Harry, while he may only delay his return power, it will merely take someone else who is prepared to fight a losing battle next time, and if he is delayed again and again, he may never return to power. Harry nodded, but he stopped quickly because it made his head hurt. Then he said, Sir, there are some other things I'd like to know. I'd like to know the truth. The truth, Dumbledore sighed. The truth, Harry, is a beautiful and terrible thing, and so should therefore not be treated with great caution. I shall answer your questions as best as I am able, unless I have a very good reason not to, in which case I must beg your forgiveness. I shall not, of course, lie to you. That's fair enough, Harry agreed. Voldemort said that he killed my parents because they stood in his way. If they had to decide to let him kill me, they would have lived. What I don't understand is why he wanted to kill me in the first place. Dumbledore sighed again very deeply this time. Alas, the first thing you've asked me I cannot tell you. Not today, not now. I must ask you to put the question from your mind. I will tell you one day, Harry, when you are older. It is a horrible thing to say, but I do not believe you are ready now. When you are, you will know. Harry knew it would be no good to argue. He lay back on the pillow. I'm very tired, sir. Dumbledore nodded. I'm sure you are. And taking the liberty of anticipating some of your questions, I've written you a short letter. He placed a folded bit of parchment on the table. Bertie bots every flavor beans. I was unfortunate enough in my youth to come across a vomit-flavored one, and since then I'm afraid I've rather lost my liking for them. He held up a pale green candy. However, I think I should be safe enough with the nice mint, don't you? He popped into his mouth. Alas, he said, still chewing. Pickle relish. Madame Pomfrey was a nice woman, but she was very strict. Harry pleaded with her, before she finally relented and gave permission for his friends to visit. Even so, she restricted them to coming in one at a time, and then only for 5 minutes. Harry, Draco exclaimed as he rushed into the door. Hello, Draco, Harry smiled. All right? We've been so worried about you, Draco told him. Pansy's been eating everything inside that Crabbe and Goyle haven't got to first. Tracy has stopped eating. Millie can't sleep at night. I'm fine, Harry assured him. Just a bump in the head. I've had worse. I should be up and around soon. Just in time for the end of year feast tomorrow, Draco said gleefully. The points are all in, and we've flattened the other houses. Gryffindor got smashed in their match against Ravenclaw. Good, Harry was delighted that his house had taken both cups once again this year, and proud they had been part of their victories. How about you? Quirrell only put me in the bind. I feel bad for Tracy who got knocked out and missed the whole thing. Wasn't it scary just laying there? More than you can believe. I nearly pissed myself when I heard that you know who started talking. Don't tell anyone. I wouldn't blame you if you had. I might have if I hadn't gone before we started out. We got really lucky, Draco said after a momentary silence. Yeah, it was really pretty stupid to run off half-cocked. Hope Snape isn't mad. We won. I don't think that'll matter to him. Madame Pomfrey chose that moment to come bustling over. All right, Mr. Malfoy, that's been 5 minutes. The others are starting to froth in the mouth a bit. Get you gone. Draco squeezed Harry's shoulder and got to his feet. Under Madame Pomfrey's stern gaze, he slouched out the door. Harry, Tracy squealed as she flew to his side. She hugged him as best she could, her son weight driving the air from his lungs. Blonde hair covered his glasses and the smell of Tracy's shampoo was in his nose. Harry felt her lips mushed into his cheek. Then she sat up and latched onto his hand. Harry steadfastly refused to give any of his friends the story. Draco could tell just as well as he. The remainder of the visits were very low-key. Mostly they had made small talk, sometimes they just sat with him. After his visits, Harry felt tired indeed. He was just thinking he should take off his glasses when he fell asleep. His head tipped to the side and the unruly black hair fell away from the scar on his forehead. Madame Pomfrey gently removed his glasses and folded them onto the table. She pulled the blanket up and tucked it under Harry's chin. Rest easy, Mr. Potter, she whispered. After a good night's sleep, Harry felt almost himself again. He was awake bright and early in the morning when Madame Pomfrey came around to do bed checks, but his hopes of being able to return to the dungeons dashed. Certainly not, she huffed. You can just stay here all day for observation. Harry was dreadfully bored for the most of the day. He couldn't keep his attention over on a book, and there were only so many times he could count the cracks in the ceiling, 22. He was desperate for some sort of distraction when Madame Pomfrey bustled over and told him he had a visitor. Who is it? He asked curiously. She placed the back of her hand against his forehead. You're not too busy to see me, I hope, Mr. Potter, came a smooth baritone voice from the doorway. Professor, said Harry, delighted this development. How are you feeling, Mr. Potter? Snape asked, taking a seat by the bed. I'm bored, sir, Harry admitted. I really like to leave. Snape shook his head slightly. I'm afraid he won't be leaving until Madame Pomfrey gives her say-so. Harry sighed. He felt perfectly all right and just wanted to move about freely. He wanted to see his friends or relax the Slytherin common room. What you did was highly risky, Mr. Potter, Snape said in a really reproving tone. Yes, sir, Harry answered. He looked at his head of house seriously. But not doing anything would have been riskier. Snape nodded. Indeed, it would have been. What I'd like to know is why you didn't tell one of your prefects. Why you didn't tell me. Harry stood uncomfortably. This is likely to be embarrassing. Haltingly in half sentences, he eventually gave Snape the whole story of everything that had gone on during the whole school year. He told him about how the young Slytherins had suspected their head. He told him how he discovered the Mirror of Her Eyes. He left nothing out. When Harry had been silent for a few moments, Professor Snape leaned back in his chair, tiredly rubbed at his eyes. I don't know what to say, Mr. Potter, he said. You've certainly been up to no end of trouble this year. Harry flushed slightly. Yes, sir, he mumbled. But in the course of your adventures, the whole lot of you displayed every exemplary trait of Slytherin house. I'm very proud of you all. Snape's voice was still low. Harry almost imagined the hero's slight catch in it. Thank you, sir. Though it's rather a paltry award for some truly phenomenal action, Snape continued, I'm awarding each of you 5 points. It should be many more, but Slytherin has already secured the House Cup this year. Thank you, sir, Harry said, repeating himself. Points had been the last thing on his mind while down in the hidden chambers. What time is the end of year feast, Sir Professor? He asked to change the subject. Around tea time, Snape answered. I'll be allowed to go, but won't I? Harry asked anxiously. Snape smiled. I'm sure that not even Madame Pomfrey will forbid you from spending leisure time with your friends. Still, you'll have to ask her. I can go to the feast, right? Harry asked Madame Pomfrey. She came by to straighten up his bedside table. Professor Dumbledore says you were allowed to go, she said stiffly, as though in her opinion, Professor Dumbledore didn't realize how risky feasts could be. There, you see, Mr. Potter, all is well. I shall see you there. Professor Snape rose to his feet. Goodbye, sir. Madame Pomfrey continued to fuss over him, and Harry put up with about half her last-minute final checkup. Finally, the clock read 5-2, and he pushed her hands away. I'm going to be late, he said, adjusting his robes. He ordered Crosslook and ducked out of the hospital wing. Trying not to run, he walked as quickly as he could down to the Great Hall, where the first-year Slytherins were just standing outside the doors. You're late, Draco drawled them. Draco definitely admonished him. I'm lucky to be here this early, Harry told his friends. Madame Pomfrey wanted to do all kinds of last-minute checks. She's convinced the feast is going to be dangerous in some nefarious way. Nefarious Tracy poking him in the side. "You be quiet," he teased her back. "Can't we go to eat now?" Crabbe asked. "You shut up too, fathead," Draco said. "Don't tell him to shut up," Millie said, grabbing Draco by the arm and leading him towards the door. "I'm famished too." The door opened and the 9 students are bathed in the glow of light. The Great Hall was completely decked out in the Slytherin colors of green and silver to celebrate Slytherin's winning of the House Cup, which was displayed at the one end of the Slytherin table with the prefects. The Quidditch Cup was on display at the other end with the Quidditch team. A huge absurd banner covered the wall behind the high table. The dull roar in the hall hushed suddenly, and after a couple of uncomfortable moments, Harry raised his chin and marched over to sit down with the team. Others took the seats that had purposely been left empty nearby. Dumbledore and other professors arrived moments later. The babble that had gone gradually resumed and died away. As the professors took their seats, the headmaster remained standing. "Another year gone," he said cheerfully. "Now must trouble you with an old man's wheezing at Walpole where he took into our delicious feast. What a year it has been. Hopefully your heads are all a little fuller than they were. You'll have the whole summer to get them nice and empty before next year starts. Now I understand that the House Cup needs official presenting." The final points stand thus. In 4th place, Gryffindor with 370 points. In 3rd, Hufflepuff with 383 points. In 2nd, Ravenclaw with 420 and Slytherin 503. A storm of cheering broke out across the Slytherin table, Harry cheering as loud as the rest. Flynn raised up the Quidditch cup in both hands and waved it around. Bull and Derek started the chant of Slytherin. The cheering took some time to die down. Harry could see Professor Snape looking very eerie, wearing what appeared to be a smile. He looked over at Harry, as if he knew he was being watched, and nodded slightly as to say, "Well done." "Congratulations, Slytherin," Dumbledore said at last. "And now let us feast." Harry set the food with a ravenous appetite. He would like to avoid questions about what had happened in the dungeons entirely, but it seemed he was eager to hear about the test for the keys. He stayed away from the subject of quarrel that had anything having to do with Voldemort. After a while, the topic changed and began to actively participate in the conversation. Byron really loved life at Hogwarts. He couldn't bear the thought of leaving. He wrenched his thoughts away from that inevitability. He thought that time enough to brood about it later. Harry knew that he would remember the feast for the rest of his life. He did not forget all the feeling he forgot when one of the sister girls, Heather Duke, brought out the camera to take pictures of the Quidditch team together with the prefects in both cups. Pictures of all kinds were taken, but both the feast and the after feast, which happened back in the Slytherin common room. They had a feast that involved loud music, lots of sweets, and plenty of silliness on behalf of everyone. Elon assured him that this was typical of the end of year celebration. The house had taken both cups. "Where's one of the cups?" he added reflectively. "Or anytime we're not under the stress of school. You'll find out about those parties when you're older. Why just for the older kids?" "We got stressed too," Theo objected. "It involves alcohol," Pan said in an exaggerated tone. Harry didn't know what time he went to bed, but the sun was starting to rise over the lake when he finally shut his curtains. He was out cold in half a heartbeat. Exam results came the next day at breakfast, and Harry opened his eyes as eagerly as everyone else. Exam results came the next day at breakfast, and Harry opened his as eagerly as everyone else. To his extreme satisfaction, he passed to the excellent marks all around. Harry's best mark was defense against the dark arts. Quirrell hadn't been lying when he commented about Harry's mark, which was the highest of all the first years. His second best mark was in potions. Harry knew he'd earned it all. The morning was spent comparing marks to everyone else. Theo and Tracy had done the best of the first-year Slytherins. In fact, only Terry Boot of Ravenclaw and Hermione Granger of Hufflepuff had scored higher marks than the rest of their form, the latter making both Draco and Theo furious. Even Crabbe and Goyle managed to pass everything and earn at least one high mark. After lunch, Harry went up to the high table to speak to the headmaster. "Professor Dumbledore, could I have a moment of your time, please?" "Certainly, Harry. Shall we go up to my office? Any room will do, of course." Dumbledore let him out of the great hall into the room where the first years had waited in before the sorting ceremony. "What is on your mind, Harry? Thank you for telling Madame Pomfrey to let me come to the feast. I would hate for you to have missed out on the chance to come celebrate winning both the House Cup and the Quidditch Cup." "Yes, sir. I also wanted to ask you if it would be possible for me to go home with the Malfoys. They invited me to stay the whole summer. You don't wish to go home? Not in your life. The Dursleys will be just as glad to be rid of me." "I'm sure that's not true, Harry. You're their nephew." Harry didn't want to start telling the old man just how the Dursleys treated him and ruined all the good cheer he had from the feast and his high marks. "Whatever. May I go?" "I'm afraid I have no say over the matter, Harry. I'm only your teacher. During the summer holiday, such a matter is decided by your guardians. The Dursleys have not given any such permission, so I must say no. It's not fair." Harry struggled to keep his temper under control. "Why should Muggles be able to tell a wizard where he can or can't go?" Dumbledore looked at him for a long time. "I'm sorry, Harry, I really am." "May I go, sir?" "Yes, have a nice holiday." Too late for that. In the few short hours they had remaining, wardrobes were empty, trucks were packed, and notes were handed out to all the students warning them not to use magic over the holidays. The next morning, after an early breakfast, they all piled into horseless carriages for a bumpy ride down to Hogsmeade Station. Chaos ensued as they all boarded the Hogwarts Express, loaded their trunks into compartments, and took their seats. This would have been the first year. It took two compartments and loaded all the luggage into one, fitting the pistols in the other. It was a bit cramped, and none of them wanted to be separated until it was absolutely necessary. Okay, so that's They Shook Hands, Year 1, Chapter 19, Part 1. Take care, everybody. I'll see you guys with Part 2.